is Rachel Fari, and I'm in Professor Smith's ED 216 class, and this is my video presentation for a lesson plan for the book, Throw Your Tooth on the Roof, Tooth Traditions from Around the World. This book is written by Selby Beeler and is illustrated by G. Brian Karras. This lesson is for second grade students and is designed to target the Maryland State Reading Standard for second grade, Standard 2.0, Comprehension of Informational Text. This standard states that students will read, comprehend, interpret, analyze, and evaluate informational texts. This lesson plan will focus on Indicator 4 of this standard, which states that students will determine important ideas and messages in informational texts. By the end of this lesson, students should be able to identify the main purpose of the text, identify the main ideas and messages in the text, compare and contrast their own experiences with losing a tooth to the experiences of children from around the world, and draw conclusions and generalizations from the text to form new understanding. Here's an overview of how the book works. So each page has a different region. So here we have North America, and then it has different countries in that region. This one has Canada, the United States, Mexico, and little pictures depicting the tooth traditions, and then a written description of the tooth tradition. On the other side are more countries or cultures from that region. Then when you flip the page, you have another region. This time it's Central America and the Caribbean, and you have different countries in that region: Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala. And again, you have the visual image of the tooth traditions as well as the written description. And so the whole book goes like that. So when you turn the page again, now we're in South America, and we sort of take a trip around the globe. From South America, we go to Africa, mid and southern regions. North Africa and the Middle East. And again, as you can see, each time you have different countries from that region, and then a visual depiction of the tradition as well as a written explanation of the tradition. This is a great informational book to teach because it gives students an opportunity to examine the cultural differences surrounding the universal experience of losing a tooth. Students enjoy sharing their personal tooth fairy stories, but many students are not aware of the practices outside of their own culture. This lesson illuminates different cultural practices and establishes a connection between students and children around the world, as well as exploring how one common experience can link together many different cultures. To introduce the book, I would read the title and the author, and begin by reading the first passage. Has this ever happened to you? You find a loose tooth in your mouth. Yikes! You can wiggle it with your finger, you can push it back and forth with your tongue. One day it falls out. There you are with your old baby tooth in your hand and a big hole in your mouth. It happens to everyone, everywhere, all over the world. Look, look, my tooth fell out. But what happens next? What in the world do you do with your tooth? I would then follow up by asking students about their own personal experiences with losing a tooth and the traditions that they follow after they do. If students haven't personally lost a tooth, I would ask them to reflect on a friend or an older brother or sister or some other relative that they know, and to share the experiences that that person has had. I love this book because it has so many different countries and so many different traditions, and you can really tailor it to the students that are in your class. So if you have a student that's from a certain country, it's probably in this book. You might not want to read all of the different countries because there are so many, but you could definitely read the countries of the students that were in your class. I'll read you just a few so you get an idea of the different traditions. So, North Africa and the Middle East. So, Libya. I throw my tooth at the sun and say, "Bring me a new tooth." My father tells me that I have a bright smile because my teeth come from the sun. than turkey. If my parents want me to grow up to go to graduate school, they might bury my tooth in the garden of the university. If they hope I will become a doctor, they bury it in the garden of a hospital, or they can bury it in a soccer field so I will become a good soccer player. After reading the book, it's good to have a post-reading discussion. Listed are some potential questions, but this is by no means an exhaustive list. Some potential questions to ask students in the post-reading discussion are to ask them to reflect on and discuss the purpose of the text and why it is important to know. What did students learn from the book that they did not previously know? Ask students to reflect on traditions in the same region and traditions across regions. Which are more similar, and why might this be? Following the post-reading discussion, there are a number of different activities that students can do to help support their learning. Students should have a variety of choices, and these choices should appeal to multiple different kinds of learners. Some different potential choices are to write a story about the journey of a lost tooth in 3 different countries. So students can write about what happens to a tooth when it gets lost in Canada versus England versus China. Students can also compare and contrast tooth traditions from 3 different countries of their choosing. So this is a more factual assignment, not so much creative writing. Students can write a newspaper article. They can interview the tooth fairy, the tooth mouse, or the tooth blackbird about their jobs. So where do they work and what do they do? They can create a map of tooth traditions from around the world. They should be sure to include at least 3 different countries in the map, and they should have some kind of visual representation, or they should have a description, a written description of the different tooth traditions. To get students up and moving, students that like, to move around, students can create a play that depicts different tooth traditions in at least 3 different countries. So there you have my lesson plan for Throw Your Tooth on a Roof, Tooth Traditions from Around the World. Happy reading!